Welcome to Insight Marketing Success, the podcast where marketing knowledge meets real-world experience, from vision to execution.
Welcome to IMS. Today we have Sean Ross from 1031 Exchange, who he founded. So, Sean, I had the opportunity to talk to you in the past, but for our audience, let us know who you are.
Sure. So my name is Sean. I'm the CEO here at 1031X. 1031X is a nationwide qualified intermediary. And I imagine for most of your audience, Ricardo, that term won't mean much because unless they're actively in the real estate investment space or they happen to work as a CPA or a real estate attorney, most people don't come across 1031 exchanges. We can dive into exactly what my company does and how that works later. But in terms of my background, I was born and raised in Denver, Colorado. I went to undergrad at Regis University there in the city, got a couple of degrees in economics and what used to be called international political economy. I guess now they usually call it international relations. And from there, went into a kind of a classic banking and financial services career, right? I worked in the banking space for a while before becoming a financial advisor and securities broker and got my licenses and did that for a few years before I fell, pardon my language here, kind of ass backwards into a freelance writing role and founded a freelance writing agency and for a long time was one of the preeminent freelance financial writers in the country. Probably wrote 2,000 or 3,000 articles on every finance topic under the sun. In the process of doing that, I met a gentleman in Chicago that was in the distressed asset space. And he hired me to be their editor in chief, where I worked with a lot of people in the private equity markets and the real estate markets. And then I was approached by the people that initially founded and started 1031X, and they said, "Look, we'd love to work with you. We don't have an exit plan. Maybe you'd like to take over the company at some point." So I went back to Denver and started working with 1031X. Turns out I liked the work, I liked the people, and was pretty good at it. So from that point forward, I joined the team and then bought out my two partners and became the sole owner of the company. And now I run it as CEO.
Wow, that's an amazing journey. When was that? When was that you started working on 1031 Exchange and then that you took over?
Yeah, I joined the company back in 2017. I took over day-to-day operations about 5 years ago and finished my buyout last year. My two former business partners, Steve and Chris, fantastic guys, and they like to spend more and more of their time skiing up in the hills and less time in front of the office. So it worked out very well for everybody.
Congratulations, that's wonderful. All right, so that's an amazing journey. In the process of doing that, did you do any type of rebranding or enhance any marketing?
We certainly did. In fact, if you use the Wayback Machine on the internet, you could find out what the company used to look like, how we used to present ourselves. We did a full rebrand back in 2021 or 2022. We redid our logo. We changed the audiences that we were targeting. At the time, we were highly concentrated in the Rocky Mountain region. Most of our clients, the investors that we worked with, were based in kind of the I-25 corridor, if people are familiar with that part of the country. And we knew that we didn't want to be so concentrated in one market. So not only did we rebrand in terms of our visual look and feel, but in terms of where we wanted to be present around the country. And now, the Denver, Colorado, Rocky Mountain region is still a very important market to us, but we have a large presence on both coasts, in Texas, all around the country. We do business in all 50 states now. So that was a real rebranding journey. In fact, we ended up hiring a firm out of Israel to help us with part of the rebrand. And that was a very interesting experience.
Wow. What led you to hiring this company in Israel?
We interviewed a bunch of different shops all around the country and then internationally. And this one just had the kind of temperament and speed that we were looking for. And I don't know that if I had to do it all over again, I would have worked with the same firm, but it went pretty well that time. And for what I knew then, it was a pretty effective rebrand.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, what were the elements from your perspective that made it a very effective rebranding?
A couple of things. We did a little bit of testing, right, to see what kind of, and some market research to see what kinds of, we're a financial intermediary, right? We help facilitate transactions that involve a lot of money, a lot of people with a lot of anxiety around their funds being transferred between different institutions or different properties. So we wanted to create a feel that was a bit more institutional and had some gravitas and weight. And our firm has been around for a very long time. So we wanted that to carry forward in how we were presenting ourselves. The prior look and feel of the company was a little bit more flashy and almost cartoony, if I could, throw a pejorative out there. The rebrand itself, we have a long history with a lot of clients who were very used to one way the company looked and felt and sounded. So we got ahead of that by communicating the rebrand to them in advance and saying, hey, this is going to change, but the services that you love aren't going to change. In fact, they're only going to get better, and here's why. So we were able to, provide a little bit of notice to the people that it really mattered to. And then we landed at a spot we felt comfortable with who we would be attracting and how with the new look and feel of the company. And then you get into a whole website redesign and redrafting your documents and coaching your staff on how to present, a new way, what that looks like. That can be a bit of an awkward dance at time, especially if you have employees that are very used to doing things a certain way. But with a little bit of trial and error, we got there.
Wonderful. Okay. Now let's talk about a situation in which you invested into marketing
Mm-hmm.
and you expected to receive this much, or you received this much, but you learned
Mm-hmm.
something. Can you remember a situation like that?
Yeah. One that very clearly sticks out in my mind. So I won't name the company that we worked with. We hired a third-party marketing vendor back around the same time, 2021, 22, 23, and they came extremely highly recommended. Not only do they have a very effective web presence, and one of the things about talking to marketing providers or marketing service providers is if they're effective at marketing themselves, you kind of get the sense that maybe, well, they'd be good at marketing you too, right? So if they
Yeah.
seem compelling in what they're doing, they'll make you seem compelling too. And that's what we thought this would be true. We even got a certificate from this company issued by Google saying this company really knows how to help you rank well on Google for instance of digital marketing. So they present us the certificate. They have a very well-branded, well-marketed marketing service package that they offered. And after working with them for about 18 months, we just weren't seeing the returns that we thought we would. I don't know exactly why it didn't work out the way we hoped, but I have some theories. And my primary theory is we live in a very niche space. Like
Mhm.
the service we offer exists at this strange intersection of real estate and law and tax and finance. And you're not just going to find a marketing agency and pluck them out of out of some random pool and say, can you write compelling copy and design compelling user experiences for this audience, for this niche service in these markets? Because if you're used to marketing sort of you know, helping a company sell clothing or helping this company sell some sort of digital service, that's different than selling a very refined and niche, very targeted professional service. And I think they fell short there. They just didn't have the capacity to speak to the audience in the way that they needed to be spoken to. So we ended up throwing a lot of spaghetti against the wall that didn't stick.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's a very niche market. I understand why I understand why you would not Google would not work. Would have
Hmm.
to be a specialized campaign for
Hmm.
people with high income,
Hmm.
and who have actually income into real estate in
Sure.
addition to that. All right, very good. Well, you being a writer and so forth, how do you incorporate storytelling into your branding today?
Yeah, that's kind of an ongoing evolution, right? I never feel like we quite arrive at that, partly because we're consistently trying to enter new markets and talk to new audiences and not just targeting the investor that we want to work with, but maybe the other professionals that work with those investors for other reasons. Maybe we want to target and work with those folks too. So the story changes based on the audience, but one thing that I believe in and that we have learned is if you just tell people what your service does, that doesn't stick with them. But if you can tell them how it makes their lives easier or makes them more successful, you either resolve a fear or make clear something that was unclear, give them some level of peace of mind or make them excited about the opportunity that presents to them and their family and the future they want to build for themselves. If you can do that, you're much more likely to connect with them on a human level and leave some kind of resonance, some kind of lingering impact that makes them think, yeah, that's a company not only that I want to work with, but I'll remember and talk to my friends about too. And so the storytelling element centers around what's the investor's journey? Where are you trying to go? Target that in your mind, and then we'll tell you how we get you from A to B, right? That's much more compelling than saying our service does all these things because the IRS has all these rules, and here are the advantages that it can provide, based on that. Most people don't have the inclination or interest, right, for that kind of message.
That's very smart. That's exactly how people buy and connect. So good marketing is all about that connection, and I couldn't agree with you more. So it's wonderful. Great job. All right. What is the biggest trend you see right now in your industry when it comes to marketing?
Everybody's trying to grapple with AI, right? We are not the most tech forward industry in the world. Our company it likes to get ahead of the curve when it comes to implementing new technology and becoming more efficient. But by and large, this is a industry run by older attorneys and accountants. And there's nothing wrong with being an older attorney or accountant, but usually your 65-year-old accountant is not somebody who is building out AI agents and having, a very well-trained copywriting LLM produce new copy for them. But you see bad attempts at it all the time. So we are seeing people dabble with, ChatGPT very clearly wrote this new page for them or this LinkedIn campaign. So I do see a lot of that. We're a little bit constrained in terms of how we can market based on the rules that the IRS imposes on our industry. So you don't see a whole lot of very experimental marketing in our industry. So in terms of new trends, it's usually just people trying what looks to be like an AI version of the same song and dance they've been doing before. And by and large, I don't think it works as well. Maybe there's a version that someone will crack eventually, but I have been unimpressed thus far with what we've seen, large language models produce from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah. Okay. Who would be an ideal client? I mean, in conversation today, you indicated it is a person who has high income and so forth. But tell me who would be an ideal client for 1031 exchange?
Yeah. The short, pithy answer is serious real estate investors are the ideal client. And by that, I mean people that know that real estate investing is going to be a large part of their portfolio, not just now, but moving forward. Maybe they want to pass on along a lot of wealth to the next generation through their real estate holdings. Real estate carries tax advantages that no other asset category in the country does, right? You can invest heavily in the stock market or cryptocurrency. You can have well-funded life insurance policies. You can invest in all kinds of separate assets. Nothing gets tax carve-outs and benefits the way that real estate does. So people that understand and appreciate that make very good clients for us. The nature of our service, Ricardo, is such that unless you're about to sell appreciated real estate, you don't really need us, right? You probably need to know about us. We need to be a tool in your tool belt, but you really only need our service if you're looking to reposition your portfolio in some way. So for example, let's say you're an investor in Denver, where our headquarters are, and for a long time, Denver was a beautiful place to invest in real estate. But over the last 5 years, 10 years, the rules have changed. A lot more people have immigrated to Colorado. The property is not appreciating as much as it used to, and it's harder to be a landlord than it used to be. Maybe the taxes are higher. It's harder to evict somebody if you want to. You can't change your property the way that you wish you could. So people get fed up and go, okay, I don't want to be a landlord here anymore. I want to go be a landlord in Texas or in Florida or South Carolina or Georgia or something like that. That's an ideal client, somebody that knows what they want to reposition to and needs some help facilitating that along the way so it's more tax efficient. On top of that, we also like working with people who just philosophically don't like paying taxes. People who have kind of a philosophical libertarian streak in them. And for a lot of successful people, especially successful Americans, that's true. So we tend to make very good bedfellows for that type of investor as well.
Okay. Not paying taxes in a legal way.
In a legal way, yes. These are legal loopholes created specifically to encourage investment in the real estate market.
All right, very good. So now let's talk about Sean Ross' character, okay? And so I have some specific questions to tell us about that. So let's imagine you go to a restaurant and you're in one of those booths where you cannot see who's in front of you or who's behind you. But as you start taking your meal, you overhear two or three of your best friends talking about you. What would you hope they say about you?
Knowing two or three of my best friends, it would just be a long litany of jokes. But if we were talking, what would I seriously want to hear come out of their mouth if they were being candid with each other for a moment? I take very seriously the concept of loyalty and the idea of showing up when you need to show up, even if it costs you something. So I would hope that they would spend some time talking about how reliable of a friend that I am. I think I would also like to hear that they think I try to do things the right way. I've kind of a self-righteous moral compass at times, and that's been passed down to me from generation to generation in my family. I'd like to hear some about that, and then I'd like to hear. I think I would hear that I don't lead a simple life, right? I like doing new and adventurous things, and um, for a lot of my friends who've stayed in one place over time, and I haven't, I imagine I'd like to hear them, you know, and I imagine I would hear them wonder aloud about some of my travels and journeys and what it's been like to be in my shoes versus theirs over the years. So, uh, I'm very blessed to have a lot of good friends. I imagine I'd hear a lot of nice things and maybe some not so flattering jokes along the way as well. I don't know if that's what you're trying to drive at here, Ricardo, but that's what I'd guess I'd hear.
Well, that's good. That's good. Okay. Well, obviously you have gone through a career and you are old enough to understand that
Hmm.
at times life, either personal life or professional life, doesn't go according to plan,
Hmm.
and life can get stressful. So how do you keep yourself grounded and how do you return to a sane mindset?
Hmm. Sure. I'm going to risk being a bit of a cliche here with some of this stuff, but in the last 10 years, I've gotten big into Vipassana style meditation. So I use an app for guided meditation or non-guided meditation as often as I can. It used to be a couple times a day anymore, maybe once every other day. Probably should do more of it than I do. Exercise is very important. So I like to go to the gym and make sure that I'm out and about and staying physically active. I'm the father of two young children. They keep me pretty active too, so that always helps. And life's thrown a lot of curveballs my direction. I have a very blessed life. I'm a very lucky man for all sorts of reasons, but there have been lots of complications, as you mentioned, along the way, some professional, some personal. And I'm lucky that I find work to be relaxing most of the time. Like I like diving in and focusing on how can we run this company better? How can we provide a better service, a better product, or do something interesting that offers more value? If you focus on that, you can enter almost a Zen-like state. If once you get the sense that you're on the right track, it's very easy to stay on that path.
Okay, wonderful answer. It's a good one. Those people, I have done these interviews, and I believe most of the people who go into meditation or have a spiritual grounding do the
Hmm.
best when this happens. Let's imagine that it's possible for you to go back in time and whisper at the time of graduation when you graduated, and you are
Hmm.
able to tell yourself something. What advice would that be?
I think I would, like everybody who'd go back and talk to their younger self, I think I'd tell younger version of me to be a little bit less confident in what you think you know, and to be a little bit more open-minded in terms of how you approach some circumstances and situations. So if I, peel the curtain back a little bit, Ricardo, I was a good student throughout high school and college, but not a great one because I didn't need to try that hard. And once I got into the professional world, the need to try hard hit me in the face pretty aggressively. I think I would have told myself to embrace that more early on than I did. So I probably would have done that. And then, well, if I could give myself, I would say go invest in Bitcoin the moment it comes out, and then sell high at a certain date. And I'd also say spend some time digging around the emerging AI space, and maybe I'd probably give some investment advice along those fronts too. But if I'm not cheating and, trying to use that just to become rich overnight, then it would be along the lines of, hey, open up your mind a little bit and really embrace the struggle, because the struggle is half the point. If you're going to spend a lot of your life working really hard, find something you enjoy with and people you enjoy doing it with and stick with that.
That's a good one. That's a very good one. All right, Sean, what would you want your legacy to be?
That question changes once you become a father. And, I mostly want to be known as a good father, as somebody my sons can grow up to and look at and say, that was a good man who did things the right way. So that's number one. Beyond that, I'd like my legacy to be that of somebody who modeled, and this terminology might get you in trouble nowadays, but what it means to be a man in a grounded sense. Like my appreciation for the role a man should play in his community and his family is somebody who embraces discomfort when it's needed, who accepts as much responsibility as he can, and who can delay gratification when he needs to. And I think people need to role model that for each other and for the next generations. And I think I'd like that to be part of my legacy.
John, that was wonderful. Thank you very much for coming to IMS today, and look forward to getting to know you better.
All right, Ricardo, appreciate you chatting with me.
Thanks for listening to Insight Marketing Success, where marketing knowledge meets real-world experience from vision to execution.